Greetings to everyone out here. It's Coach Harv, my man, Coach Alec. First episode of the Hornet Huddle, man. Best Speed wanted to do a podcast. We've been talking about it, honestly, for probably about the last year. A little bit more serious here last month. I think it's important, especially with some of the changes that Alec has put in place for this year, kind of separating some of our teams more by grade as we prep them for high school, which we'll get back to. But more importantly, man, year 10, when you look back to year one, obviously I've been here since going on 2 years now, a little bit over 2 years. Was with you with the 12U 2 years ago, 13U last year, and now we're going 14U this year. And you've made some changes, but if you reverse back to year one versus year 10, what do you have? I mean, I know obviously you're excited because you're going to year 10, but if you start from year one to year 10, just a somewhat brief overview. I know there's details in there on how you feel about it and where you feel the direction is leading to, bro.
So I think going from year one, it's like 22 kids showed up in November of 2009. And out of those 22 kids, I had coached 13 of them previously.
Okay.
So a whole new crop of 12-year-olds had shown up, via word of mouth. And it was actually 22 more than I thought were going to show up. So that's obviously different because this year at tryouts, we had over 245 kids basically try out for Best Speed Baseball. With now us being an organization of almost right around 300 again for the fifth year in a row of having that type of membership that is rostered, academy, and then drop-ins, and so really year one was Little League fields, having relationships in West Sac, having relationships in South Sac, a lot of tournament play, but not a lot of good tournament play. That first group, they were 2015 and 2016 year graduates. Okay. And the 2016 class is absolutely one of the best classes we've ever had. Out of the 26 kids that were in that class, 24 of them have gone on to play at four-year universities and or been drafted. So awesome. They were the benchmark for our 10 years. They still hold that precedence at Best Speed Baseball. And then you look at year 10, I have my 16U now going to be shifting to 17U juniors, the class of 2021, and a few 2020s mixed in there. Right. That now hold that torch. They are the model group of consistency, gameplay, player development, right. Players getting better throughout the course of their time. The majority of that group has been together since they were 9, 10, or 11, and really it's still the same when you really break everything down with the families, with the dynamic, the culture, and you and I both are big on that. I think that's what's obviously enticed you to come and be collaborative with me in the first place, was the overall culture of what we do. A lot of people don't understand it. They don't understand, well, we don't have a fancy, simulator, or we don't have a bunch of radar guns, and we don't have a bunch of plyo care balls, and a lot of different things we don't have, and we use certain things now. We're using technology more. We've kind of, I don't know how you can actually, or how I can actually elaborate more on, other than we're just adapting to what the culture and generation of what baseball's turning into. But I've always felt like in the 10 years, from year one to now, we've always been very innovative on how we collaborate our workouts, how we integrate, the 13 and 14-year-old classes per se, and then how we integrate 15 through 18-year-olds in and throughout the program, how everybody's usually on the same page. Our signs, our verbiage, the things that we do offensively and defensively are linear from 9 through 18. So, their playbook is very extensive, and as they get older, we start adding wrinkles to their playbooks, more depth to a 50 series, more depth to our first and thirds, because the guys obviously can throw better, faster pitching, different things of that nature. So it's just a good amount of change, but it's good change, right? It's progressive change. It's never been stagnant,
Right.
if that
And
makes sense
progressive
too.
part, yeah, it does, because the progressive part is going to make sense, because although there's not all the technological pieces, that's something that you actively keep up on as well. You know that it exists, and we kind of tease it, and a lot of times it's tongue in cheek.
Mm-hmm.
They say they have certain terminology, scientific terms that we know what they're typically saying, but your lay person may not know. And when I rewind it back for me, fell into that category for much of my life, because I was someone that got by athletically, even baseball wise. Our probably story from start to finish differ in some ways, as
Mm-hmm.
similar as we are. I was a person like, I've sat there honestly next to you the last couple of years, and there's been times like, well, man, I've never thought about processing that way, or just the way
Mm-hmm.
that you think about something mixed with what I already knew or what I thought that I did. I think that's that collaborative piece that attracted me to it, because when you look at someone that is trying to teach the game from ground up, when I go back 2 years to when I first came back around the game, ironically, I ran into you. But I end up dealing with high school baseball players
Mm-hmm.
that, for a large part, didn't know the game that well. And you were just talking about yesterday, we have a 9-year-old in our program who is breaking down all of our bunt coverages, and he's 9 years old right now. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, when you look at a 9-year-old that's already retaining that knowledge, just been taught those things, I tell our 13s and 14s all the time, when you guys are in high school, some of these 10s, 11s, and 12s are going to try and come eat your lunch, because they're chasing after them in a sense. They're older. They want to be as good as they are. It's the big brother, little brother
So
mentality.
that's the hindsight part of 10 years, right? It's understanding how much depth 4 years of high school baseball entails. And where our 13-year-olds right now that are now 14, and even the new 13-year-old crop of kids, they don't realize that they're going up against our 2022s and our 2023s. And
Right.
those are the guys, yes, they've been playing ahead of you, but now you're on an equal playing field. Now you have to prove yourself, or if you're a sophomore, if you're that talented, you will play varsity baseball. So we try, I know that we all try as a staff to create that environment where a freshman feels comfortable playing against a senior, because that's what
Absolutely.
baseball is. I mean, you can be 21 years old in pro ball
Right.
and you're facing a 40-year-old veteran,
Sure.
so there really isn't this whole age restriction thing that a lot of people get caught up in. And so I feel like we were extremely progressive the last few years on, I don't ever have a problem moving a kid that deserves to move up,
Right.
right? So because we don't allow guest playing, because we don't do certain things that other organizations or even just teams do, we work from within. And so when we build from within, we are building a player that can move up and down and is very versatile and is a utility guy, or what we call labeled a super utility player. I think you and I were teasing about it just a week ago when I go back and look at our game changer, which I very rarely do unless I'm looking for statistical analysis about how much we're throwing strikes in the zone, how we're hitting with runners in scoring position,
Right.
how many walks to strikeout ratios are we having. So I'm not really worried about their batting average. I never have and never will. Congratulations if you hit over 400, right? But what I look for on that is how many kids we actually threw this year, how many pitchers that were former just one position, one dimensional baseball players did we develop as a staff to incorporate them now they can throw.
Right.
And so you look at from our 13-year-olds last year, we had a gold and a green and an elite. On the elite team, there was 13 rostered players.
Right.
11 or even 12 of those players
Well,
had potential can throw. On the green team, you had 13 players. 11 out of those 13 threw.
right.
On the gold team, there was 14 players. 9 out of those 14 players were pitchers throughout the season.
Right.
So not only do we adhere to the USA baseball stuff with all the pitch smart certifications and
Right.
guidelines, but we're developing a kid and we're not overusing that kid, right? So that's appealing. If you're a parent, the biggest thing I can tell you is that you don't want your kid to be throwing all these bullets before he even gets to high school or before he gets onto campus and college. But we
Right.
are training and developing you in the right fashion and not overusing you. So I think from year one to now, it really has been a super collaborative conglomerate of being on the precipice of being, cutting edge with how we train and what we do with our players. We're not afraid to say, you're in 7th grade. Yeah, you just left a 4660 diamond. But if you're 12, you know what, mom and dad and player, we're going to actually need you to go play 13U baseball because you're physical enough to do so. And we want your son to have these 2 straight years of intermediate training and development, which a lot of people don't want to do. Why? Because of the t-shirt, because of the rankings, or because of the trophies, or whatever it is that their goal is. Every coach has a goal. Every organization has a goal. You just have to figure out when you're looking for something, right? If you're a parent out there and you're looking for something, you have to physically look at what the culture of that is being taught. And for us, winning is a formality of how we prepare. And that's it. A lot of times in tournaments, it's the luck of the draw on Saturday. Did we draw a draw of death, or did we draw kind of a moderation of different things? You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of times people may get caught up in just looking at our website and seeing all these wall of champion teams. It's like, they're just really good teams, guys. Please understand that there's talent. That talent has been cultivated. That talent has been prepared. And we run off of our assignments through our depth charts. And all of our coaches do that. We set up a 5-man rotation. We set up the bullpen. We set up the closer. We treat this like it is a major league clubhouse or a major league setting where if you don't do your job on the elite team, you're going to get demoted down to the prospect team. And a player that competes and works his tail off on the prospect team will have the opportunity. How many opportunities? We threw 2 no-hitters last year with prospect players on our 13 elite side, because what happens is they have great stuff. They go and pitch with our elite team, and the defense is almost about 50 to 75% better fielding percentage rise on the elite team than the prospect team. So now the simple plays that are going into play, like a Zach Baker or a C. Lee or a Jackson Evans, those 3 young men come to mind because those 3 young men all were given an opportunity to pitch with that elite team and rose to the occasion.
Indeed.
That's the goal of the program.
Right. And I think that's the beautiful preparation piece that I was drawn to early on, because it was set up either like a minor league system or a high school system or a college system that realizes, you know what, you're going to be a 14 or 15-year-old possibly playing with 16 to 18-year-olds year 1. If you don't know what it looks like, which makes me think of the college development piece that we have at Best. Now, that's something you've done directly. It's something I remember going out to Sac State 2 years ago, and there's like 25 dudes in the dugout. And I'm like, man, this like inside, right? Not even vocalizing that to you. Like, man, this is pretty cool right here. 15 to 18-year-olds, 15 to 17-year-olds, all rotating in. You did it down in San Diego, 17, 18 roster players, getting them all there, getting them all ABs. That takes something. And yes, you may not play all 7 to 9 innings. You might not get every inning at shortstop, but coming from someone who only played shortstop and only pitched until my sophomore year at Sac State, that definitely set me behind as a baseball player. When I started playing outfield in the minor leagues, I was out in center field spinning around like a top. Now I learned how to adjust, and I spent most of my time in the outfield. But for me, I think it's a great benefit to move guys out of position. Don't be one-dimensional, especially in this game that we play where everyone wants to be a shortstop and a second baseman. But when you look at the major leagues, those positions are dominated with, at the end of the day, people who spend a lot of time taking ground balls and working on their feet, being Latin players.
So my perfect example is Chris Bryant, right? 3 years ago, they win a World Series ring. He wins the MVP, wins a Gold Glove, and played 40+% of his time in left field. Absolutely. Won a Gold Glove at third base and a Silver Slugger and an MVP as a third baseman, but played almost 40% of his actual game reps were in left field when Kyle Schwarber went down. So you just look at, okay, if the big league guys are having to do this, why are we not transitioning and translating that to our younger guys? Absolutely. Like, I don't want a bunch of kids who are cookie cutters. I don't want cookie cutting hitting. I don't want cookie cutting throwing. we talked about it yesterday. Our canvas for our athletes that we give lessons to or instruction to through clinics and even team wise, we want to work with a canvas based on an athlete, right? So we want that athlete to stay athletic. And in order to do that, I think the magic more than likely comes because we don't have the egotistical baseball player. Now, I can honestly say this, and it's probably the only negative thing I can say in this whole, segment that we're doing today is that the entitled, the ego, and the overzealous parent plus player, I have to say that, right? That's the equation. They weed themselves out of this organization because we don't operate off of that. Like It literally truly is. If you pick your teammate up, you talk to the other shortstop, you guys figure out your innings, you guys get your reps. Now, people might view development differently. Oh, he's got to play all 7 innings. Well, if we're playing 5 to 6 games on a Saturday and a Sunday combined, which is asinine, which I really hate playing a 3-game Sunday, right?
Right.
So I always beg to differ about, why do you carry 13 or 14? It's like, look, why are you carrying 10? You carry 10 on a weekend where you play 6 games. Those kids need a full 5 days off. And baseball is meant to be played every single day. Right. So if you get to the high school level, you're going to have 18 to 22 guys in a dugout. You get to college, it's 25 to 32. You get to the big leagues, there's a 40-man roster and 26 guys during the playoff time, right? Or that playoff push now because of the new rules. So why not get used to playing with a bigger roster? Because you're not going to go run out to your high school team and there's only going to be 10 dudes, And so now learning that, hey, are you a starter or are you not? Are you the dude when the time crunch comes or not? Like, you have these proving points to do with us because we do a depth chart all the time. We give honest evaluations, we give fair assessments, and then we also give anecdotes to what we're seeing. So, I mean, that's from year 1 to 10 has completely not shifted, but it's gotten better. It's just, and it's easy. As long as the players are committed, it's an easy process.
Right. And I think that's the important part because, again, when you speak about parents, when you think about parents, we've had this conversation. I don't really sweat on some stuff, but I also don't run an organization, right? And there are certain things you've seen in 10 years. Like, I was away from the game of baseball. I come back in a sense, taking notes, keeping inventory, like I always said. Like, let me see what the game looks like now. Let me see the development pieces. And as I told you before, I came back and I saw high school players, in my opinion, that were already in high school that were not equipped properly to be able to play baseball, not knowing where you're supposed to be when the ball's put in place. In play, to me, is the base level of baseball. Why aren't you where you're supposed to be, right? If you're in my mind, again, if you're a freshman or sophomore in high school already. So I come into best speed 3 or 4 months into it, and I'm just like, man, this is pretty cool. It's pretty interesting because 9 through 14-year-olds are learning bunt coverages, first and thirds, where you're supposed to be when a ball's put in place. We have 3 teams last year of 13-year-olds all practicing together, which is kind of nuts, right? 40 kids all together practicing. We're rotating. We're having simulated games. We're having individual work. And just the growth I've seen from year 1, the 12-year-olds, the 13-year-olds, now the 14s that are coming in. And with changes you're trying to make now, because we'll add this part in, you're kind of backing away from the coaching part in a sense for the 9 to 13-year-olds, the high school guys that are being prepped for high school, you're pulling back from there. You're still doing the college development. Now with the college development piece, and then you can go back to the high school, what is it you're trying to do with the college development? Because you spent some time at CRC, you've put guys out into Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA. What is that college development piece for you? Why do you have that set up? Why do you?
So that was like the best thing I could have ever asked for, was having one of my mentors that's been my mentor since I was 12, and Donnie Miko, allowing me and inviting me on staff last year, was to understand the grind from a different viewpoint, right? Like, I knew the grind as a player, and my grind kind of sucked when I was in college because I had a kid on the way. freshman year.
Yeah.
Right. And I worked at Gap 40 hours. So my was work, work,
Right.
grind, work, grind, work, grind, work, grind. And I don't ever wish that upon anybody. And another reason why I coach, right?
Right.
Now being in this and having 8 summers of college development is understanding what the college coaches and the pro scouts want, what they want to see, how they want their players to act and react. I just got a text message yesterday from a recruiting coordinator that gave me some very, very detailed insight about my own kid. So I can now share that information with my child, not only just as a coach, but as a dad. And it's like, I keep trying to tell you, all eyes are always on you. People
Absolutely.
are always watching how you act, how you react, how you
Right.
treat your teammates, what you're always constantly doing. So those budding factors are why we do it, right? It's to tell them and give them a stepping stone. So when they step into it and understand that in the summer, it's 5 to 6 days a week. It is a grind. And that's the same grind that they're going to ask you to do when you're 17 or 18 years old once you stop hearing the bell system in high school. So if you really want to do this, this is going to be the test for 3 months or almost 3 to 6 months, because we run into the fall as well,
Right.
of do you really want this? Do you want to put in the time with Javen or at Hyperdrive or at the academy? Do you want to put in the time with the school? Do you want to put in the time with the extra hitting? I mean, we have our regulars who are always in their cages, right? The regular good dudes, Keller, JoJo, Chew, those dudes are always at the facility. TJ, they're always at, Daniel, Will, these guys, Zach Enos, these young men are always at the facility. And there's no, Isaiah Witherspoon's another one, right? But there is no secret to the sauce. Everybody always thinks there's a secret why this kid is a 1%er or even a 5%er. Why does this kid have a deal or not have a deal? The reason why those kids have a deal or the reason why they're getting looks is because they work. And if you think that you're just going to show up and put a best speed uniform on, you're really sadly mistaken. And I warn everybody about that. I warn it at orientation. I warn it in your one-on-ones, how we coach every day. You warn them. Mike Torres warns them. I mean, look at what I said last night, right? I basically told the boys, you have to stop relying on your coaches to give you feedback. You guys need to start feedbacking yourselves. You need to start having conversations with your teammates in order to become better baseball players. Those conversations open up your eyes a lot more when your peer tells you you're not hitting really well right now, or you're always dropping your arm, or you never throw strikes. And that hits home just a little bit harder. It stings a little bit more when that dude that even may be below you is telling you what you really are. And I think a lot of our generations need to know that. These new guys, this new crop of best speeders need to understand how to do that.
Right. And I think it's important to point that out because me as a baseball player, I see you doing something, man, this guy swings it. He's always on time. His hands, it seems like he's never in a slump. For me, I watched what you did. You might be doing something different I've never done before. I'd ask you, hey, why are you doing that? What's the reason? What does it help you with? And that is something I think we should see more of. I think Mike mentioned it earlier in our chat feed that he thought that was a valuable piece for them. And it is because on one instance, you're going to feel like there's someone in your group that maybe even plays the same position as you do that might be better than you. But that's not, it never was for me at least. I think about my freshman year going to Sac State. I knew the shortstop was a junior. I knew the second baseman was a senior, and there was a chance I could take his job. So the senior obviously took that to heart because he's like, man, here comes this freshman. We're both swinging it. When it came to day one, I sat 16 games before I got in the game at Sac State. But I understood he's put in the time. He's a senior. We've both been swinging it. Why wouldn't they go with him? And I had to wait till I got my time, but it seems like this generation leans more to the side of I'm not the guy, I'm not the one that's in there, so I'm just not good enough, which translates to I'm not going to work. Now, that's not everybody in our group. I'm just saying as a whole. Man,
that's 50-50, though. That's also 50-50 because there's another narrative that goes along with that, and that's the kind of dark side of this is that if they don't feel like they're the shortstop or not seeing their player at short and in the 3-hole, but their numbers or their bat or their athleticism doesn't provide that for us to do that for them, they leave. Right. So they leave the actual entity of what we're trying to accomplish. Now, look, you're going to have a million people tell you for the rest of your life that you can't do something, or you have a million people tell you you're not a shortstop, you're not a left fielder, you're not a catcher, and they're going to force you to actually either adapt to it, or you die. And we don't want kids to quit. We want kids to be here. We want kids to really, truly get an understanding of what being a good teammate is, what the understanding of what real baseball is being played. And again, with this generation, they're just so used to having everything now. That's it. Like, they get everything quicker than we ever did. But we didn't get things postmated to us, right? We didn't have instant downloads of music. Like, you had to go to Tower Records. I mean, so us understanding how we used to have to obtain something is not the same as my 16-year-old and how he obtained something.
True.
It took us 2 weeks to get a new CD that dropped 2 weeks ago. Now they get that 11:01 as soon as it drops, and it's already downloaded and on their phone. So the initial want of understanding, hey, I may not get this right now. They don't understand that baseball is truly old school in that thought process. It takes time. It's a marathon.
Indeed. And I think that's we can close with this because it's twofold. Let's look at the guest play, because I understand why you do it. Some people and some parents might not. You have the side that, I mean, we play with our friends. They play with their friends. I know you have a different reason for it. And then the second part of that, along with the guest playing, is same conversation we've had. At the end of the day, for me, I know that a parent, probably the parent first, I'd say in most situations. I'm sure there's times where they defer to their kids, but a parent, and I've said this to you, is always going to kind of err on the side of, we think this is best for our kid.
Of course, every parent is a general manager for their child, right? Every parent I'm a general manager for TJ. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not. I am. I can control his narrative. I can control when he goes somewhere, how he's seen, what light he's in. I try not to. I try to allow him to decide what, showcases he wants to go to. To the guest playing thing, community is so far gone right now. I think the biggest community, as far as I've seen and witnessed, is in Laguna, within Elk Grove. So those two communities, Laguna Youth Baseball and Elk Grove Youth Baseball, they both have a very budding membership, right? Okay. There's like 1,200 kids on both sides. Wow. So 1,200 here, that's a lot of kids. And those numbers, I keep hearing those numbers are dwindling. I don't know. I'm not on their boards. I'm not in their leagues. We're only a catalyst to those things. We actually, we encourage our players to go back and play recreational baseball. And here's the number one reason why. That player comes to Best Speed for 6 to 8 months, learns how to play baseball, goes back to their tryouts in January or February. All of a sudden, every parent in the stands is like, why is player A look better than my kid? Oh, that's right. They've been working 4 to 5 days a week in a high school preparatory environment. Not to mention, once the season hits, now they do their tryout or make their team or whatever it may be. And now we have a confident baseball player. So guess what we have coming back to tryouts? Guess what we have the next year? We have a confident baseball player. And on a business front, they're a walking billboard for Best Speed Baseball. I don't have to be on social media. I don't have to go around and pass out my card, which I don't do anyway, or flyers or whatever it may be, and tell you this is the best place to be at. If you want to be here, you're here. But more to the guest playing is it's about the health concerns about each player. And the overall factor is that even up until this year when we actually raised our prices, for the last 4.5, almost 5 years, we had $70 a month for what we offered, right? 2 to 3 workouts a week, SST, open hitting, access to academy nights on Fridays. I mean, that's a lot of things for $70. And
that's sports specific training for those that don't know.
Yeah. So that's our strength and conditioning and our, mobility, our functionality, our plyometric training. Javen Williams does a phenomenal job with our guys. And that's something we've mandated this year. And watch how much our gameplay is going to go up because all of our players are going to be in shape finally. Right. And what I witnessed with my first groups, right? Year 1, year 2, it was allowed. But I would have kids coming back to practice on Tuesday who couldn't throw,
Right.
because they threw 9 innings or they threw 140 plus pitches because they weren't keeping track. And it's kind of like you guys have to learn how to play and be loyal to an organization or to your high school or to the things that you're doing. Learn how to overcome any type of adversity, and there's different reasons. And this is probably a whole nother segment we're going to have to do, about transfers and all this other stuff, or when players leave and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, but just for the non-person that doesn't know best speed baseball, it's to protect your son. It is to make sure your son is getting what you as a parent are paying for. And that's instruction from our instructors, not just our head instructors, but the coaches that are on our staff, which we have 37 guys, with 6 head instructors that manage pitching, catching, fielding, hitting, infield, outfield, sports and strength and conditioning, training. I mean, we have all of what you need here. Right. Why venture out there? Plus the quality of life, right? That's one of the bigger things. God, family, school, then baseball, right? That's our pyramid of success at Best Beat. It's God, family, school, then baseball. And if you're playing every single weekend, that's the biggest recipe for burnout. The biggest recipe. I mean, how many kids did we see this spring who were tired after month 2 of Babe Ruth, right? And so a lot. They couldn't handle, and then when all the promotions and all the graduations, you see how chaotic everything gets. Everybody wants to play. And you only want to play when you don't have anything on your plate. So as soon as all that stuff comes up, our rules really help you. They benefit you because we're giving you a quality of life. It's not play all the time. It is, if you need to go to church, go to church. If you have a family function or a vacation, go on your vacation. School presides over baseball any day of the week in all of our books. That is something we sign up for as a staff. I'm not bigger than our logo. Nobody is. And then baseball. And so it all works together cohesively.
Indeed. And I'll just say that to add to the guest playing piece, again, being away, different set of eyes. I come back and I've experienced it with my teams. I've had the last 2 years that I've done, as well as doing Best Speed. This has been the same thing. Hey, I don't have that rule because I'm not in academy. I kind of let them do their thing. But when I do, you're absolutely right. I've had kids that don't pitch come back and tell me they threw 2 or 3 innings. I'm like, I don't even throw you. Why are you pitching for someone else? I think of, I can't remember the organization.
Injuries. I mean, there's a lot of different things.
There was a 10-year-old that threw over 100 pitches in a game, man. At 10, that makes zero sense to me.
In a championship game.
I get that piece. I also understand the piece where, similar to us, when we were younger, we did a little bit of that, but I don't think we were in a situation where I can't recall going to a team and pitching unless someone asked me if I wanted to pitch or if it's something that I did. But
there was less than 3 real travel ball teams.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There was less than 3 teams in the area when we all played. Right. You had NorCal, Cal, Opti, and I don't even remember the other one. I mean, so if you were a better baseball player, you played at Renfrey, right? You played on Thursday, Fridays, and Sundays at Renfrey if you were really good. You played Stam Usual, you would guest play there and get your at-bats and fill in on these collegiate summer teams and things like that as a high schooler. And I don't even functionally say that that's guest playing. Like, if you're going to guest play or you're going to do that, then go play up, right? Then go play against competition that is going to hand you your lunch, right? And that's why we, and this is another segment too, is our collaborative piece with Club All-Star is phenomenal. Like it's a great partnership. It's helped both organizations who are very well known and very, revered on getting kids to the next level, and us collaborating and having kind of the same pursuit for greatness for all of our players. I'm all for that, and we're going to be doing more with other organizations that feel the same way we do.
Right. So. And I know this is an intro kind of overview. I know we're going to hit specific things, approach at the play, from your positions of playing catcher, playing the middle infield. We, in a sense, have everything covered. I was an infielder and outfielder. you're very good on the pitching side. I mean, you've caught some really good big leaguers at a young age. Dallas Braden, I think of Manny Parra just off the top that I know. So that's, again, an important piece to me. I look at the big leagues even right now, and I've always admired catchers because I envy you guys. I kind of had it from reverse as a center fielder to finish my career. You're a front row seat to everything that's happened on. But
everything.
The jealous piece is like, man, he gets to be involved in every single pitch. So for me as a center fielder, I know a lot of kids take it this way. I ended up first thinking, man, they're moving me to the outfield. I have to hit tanks. I need to be a different type of player. But I ended up enjoying it because, again, it was a front row seat to the whole game, kind of in front of me because everything else is behind me. So I enjoyed seeing the game from that vantage point all the way to I would have catchers make sure they put tape on their fingers if I couldn't see the signs because I wanted to have that advantage. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I know that
I am too.
There's much to unpack, man. This is just the beginning of it. Episode 1, more to come for sure, man.
I think what's really cool about everything is that our mental fortitude and our mental game, that's what our PhDs are in, is the mental game of this sport, inside and out. And that's what benefits all of our guys.
Indeed,
so, man, I'm excited about this.
Man, we know it's mostly mental, and it's definitely going to be continued. Make sure you guys keep it locked to the Hornet Huddle. We're going to be doing this as often as we can. Once we get a somewhat idea on how often we're going to drop it, we're definitely going to drop some more content for you guys.